NCSA Live. My name is Kyle Winters, recruiting manager here at NCSA. And today we have a great topic to you. We're coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. If you guys have any questions, make sure to throw them in the chat. We'll answer them at the end of the show, whether it's about our topic of the day or anything having to do with recruiting. We'll get to those and make sure we're answering as many of your questions as we possibly can. I'm joined by another one of our outstanding recruiting managers, who's second time appearing live and hosting today. Phil, how are you doing?
I'm doing extremely well. As long as I'm aside you, can't be much better.
Well, you're the only one who feels that way, so I appreciate that only one person does. But Phil led our recruiting force call this morning for our entire recruiting force, so he's doing double duty, which is more benefit to everybody who gets to listen to him. So Phil, we have a great topic today. Should be pretty straightforward. It's not one that you would necessarily have to give a lot of thought to, but the topic is, why should I be coachable? And again, should be pretty straightforward, but we're going to walk you through ways to tell if you're coachable. Are you already coachable? If so, great. Can you improve upon that? We're going to do, like I said, the live Q&A at the end of this. So to start things off, we're going to open things up with a definition of what it is to be coachable. We have a graphic there for you. A great definition is having conscious knowledge of one's own character, motives, and feelings. Otherwise put, simply conscientiousness. Are you a conscientious individual? In sports as in life, things happen all the time that are completely outside of our control. We get bad bounces, bad breaks. The refs haven't updated their prescriptions in 10 years. There's no shortage of things that happen in life as well. One thing in our control as a student athlete is our coachability. Student athletes, they can compete, they can complete control over whether or not they're coachable. Coachability is all about a student athlete's mindset. It's an athlete's ability to remain positive, passionate, motivated. They're going to have a much easier time accepting feedback from coaches, engaging with their teammates, and they're going to get better. It's going to help you in the rest of your life. So Phil, I'm going to turn it over to you. What do coachable players look like? Just so we know on the onset, what does a coachable player look like?
Yeah, number one, they manage their time, right? It's a lot to unfold when it comes to coachable student athlete, and a lot of it is conceptual, but in the spirit of recruiting where a lot of things are outside of our control, Kyle, as you've referenced, when we look at coachability, number one, it's managing time, right? It's knowing the time that you have and doing something about it, being very intentional in that time. So for example, if we're in practice, right, if we're a starter, fine. But regardless, if we know we're practicing, we're looking to engage with our teammates. We're looking to make sure we're taking all out of the reps that we have. And if we're not in current reps in practice, depending on that sport, we're looking to engage and learn from others that are in those reps. Ultimately, managing the time to the best of efficiency is number one when it comes to coachability. Typically, unless warranted from a coach, typically we don't see those coachable student athletes sitting on a bench or cracking jokes or not paying attention. That's absolutely not what a coachable student athlete does. Now, furthermore, okay, we talk a lot about routines, okay, outside of student athletes, but it is absolutely pivotal, okay, for that student athlete looking to be coachable, looking to get the best out of their recruiting and out of their sport. You have to build a routine, right? Build a routine for success. And that should start with what you're doing as a student. Again, we're not athletic students, we're student athletes, so it should absolutely start with a successful routine in the classroom. And that should be a routine in regards to your sport as well, whether it be just a routine of practice and coming home and taking a shower and eating a good dinner. Making sure you have that as a routine, that way you're less likely to veer away from that routine. Another thing I like to mention lastly here is to have a target that you're looking to reach every single day as a coachable student athlete. Are we out there just going through the motions? Or hey, are we looking to get better with our 40 time? Or are we looking to get better with our vertical jump? Or are we looking to impress coach today in practice or give a little something that we didn't give yesterday? Have every single day with intention. Again, tackle every single day with intention and look at tangible areas that you can actually grow in and make that daily a part of your routine. And those are some of the student athlete.
Yeah, Phil, when I think about a coachable student athlete, having been a former high school travel softball coach, I think about an athlete who I'm going to give them something to work on. I'm going to spot something out and say, hey, try this. And they're going to put it into practice. They're going to work on that one little thing that I just told them. To me, coachability isn't necessarily about being the coach's pet, the player that's sitting there following around the coach in their back pocket all day long. They're driving me crazy as a coach. But if I give you something to work on, coachability to me means that I'm going to be able to allow you to go off on your own, and you're going to work on that. You're going to take that home with you. You're going to work on that. You're going to have that piece of that action step, and you're going to take it seriously, take it to heart, and try to put it into place. On the opposite end of the spectrum was probably most of the high school girls that I was coaching, and parents out there with high school kids, you'll get this. You'll see this. Uncoachable players, they're out there rolling their eyes. They're talking while the coach is talking. They're shifting blame for mistakes. They can't implement changes discussed by the coach like we just talked about, or they don't want to, or they don't seem like they're trying. They're slacking off. They're cutting corners during drills. They're not looking at the coach while the coach is talking to them. They're looking off into the distance. They're sitting there playing with the grass or playing with the dirt and not paying attention, which, again, every parent out there knows exactly what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, a lot of coaches probably do as well. So it's pretty easy to spot. And for a player, it takes a certain conscientiousness to realize and notice which one of those you are. If you find yourself sitting there playing with the grass, not paying attention, snap yourself out of it. You have to be able to snap yourself out of it and turn your attention back to where it should be. If you feel like you hear the coach and then you just kind of go back doing the same thing, you kind of have to snap yourself out of it. But we do have some very more specific steps on how a student athlete can start small and figure out where they fall and start building toward being more coachable. Phil, can you walk us through some of those ways that if you're not sure as a student athlete, how to start small and building more coachability within yourself?
Absolutely. And I think it's where it starts, right, Kyle? We showed that definition of self-awareness. Being coachable takes an extreme element of self-awareness. So based upon what we've covered thus far, if you find yourself as a student athlete or your son or your daughter, maybe it's hard to understand which side of the spectrum you fall on. Maybe it's in the middle. Then again, you can always start small, as you referred to there, Kyle, when it comes to number one, being on time. Right? We hear this a lot in the sport world. We hear this a lot beyond the sport world. But again, time is everything. And being on time shows respect to the coach, shows respect to your team, and shows respect for yourself that you're looking to, again, be better than you were the previous day and get all you can out of that practice, out of that game, and from your coach. And of course, it's an old adage, right? But it absolutely applies, especially in a sport world. If practice is at 10 a.m., well, we better be there at 9:45. Right? The element of being on time is being early. And if we're not early, then the assumption is relate in that regard. So starting with something small, like, again, just being attentive, being aware, and again, being on time is absolutely pivotal in that regard. And a couple other things, right? Looking at being someone who's going to hustle, right? Looking at being someone who's going to pay attention every single time coach is talking, outside of some of the eye rolling and some of the side talking, Kyle, that you may have referred to. These little things, whether it's being on time for practice and games, whether it's, again, hustling through the line, right? No one wants to see a student athlete, again, not finish through the line, whether that be not talking up when a coach is speaking, when a coach is addressing the entire team. It's nothing that can get on the nerve of a college coach like someone who's not invested into what we're doing every single day, what they're doing every single day. And that can be apparent to a college coach, so or any coach in that regard. So again, looking to be coachable, starting small is absolutely pivotal. And sometimes even if you are coachable, and which we'll talk about a little bit later, it doesn't hurt to revisit some of the small things. How well have we been on time? How well have we really crushed the line, finished through the line? How well are we speaking up for our other teammates when we feel warranted? Some of those little things can absolutely be a difference maker between really just the controllables, because whether it's height, whether it's some of our genetics, we know that's sometimes out of our hands, right? But some of the small elements is absolutely within our grasp.
For sure. And, we talked a little bit about some of the other ways to tell if you're coachable. Listening only some of the time, you're probably not that coachable. If you only do what is asked when you feel like it, you're probably not that coachable. If you do everything asked, but you don't do it 100%, you're probably not quite that coachable. But the irony of coachability is that being coachable is coachable. It's habitual. It's something that you have to practice. It's not something that every single person has built into them right away automatically. It's something that you have to develop over time. It's something you have to work on to get better at. And it's something that is within your control and something you can intentionally get better at each and every day, whether that's in school, whether it's as a student athlete, and as importantly, if not more importantly, later on in the rest of your life, going into your career, marriage, family, whatever it may be. But one thing that you can do as a student athlete is think about a player on your team. It could be a captain. It could be a professional athlete. What do they do to stand out? How do you know that they're being coachable? What is it they're doing to be coachable? Again, it's not necessarily that they're the coach's pet, following the coach around all the time. That's not necessarily what coachable means. What are they doing? Pay attention to what it is they're working on. I can really relate to this now in my own work and career when I was looking up to it, and as I still look up to other managers within this company that are ahead of me that are further along. I watch the way they work. I watch the way they manage. I watch the way they speak. I watch how they interact with individuals. I watch the way they conduct themselves, the way they organize meetings, all those types of things. They're going to be relatable, not just in sports, but in the rest of your life. And the more coachable you are as a student athlete, the more that's going to carry on along into the rest of your life. And Phil, Phil, I would imagine you have some examples of that yourself from either from your playing career, from work career, whatever it may be in life. I think it's very relatable to almost everybody.
Yeah, and a lot of different avenues. And I thought that was a beautiful description of how you just outlined it, Kyle. But I won't say this is to brag by any measure, but if I relate to some of the days of, again, being what I would term myself as a coachable athlete, if we think about the opposite coin there, for our student athletes that are not coachable, that can be a big time disservice for our coachable student athletes. And to, again, provide a little bit more context there, let's think about some of the things, Kyle, that you mentioned early on when it comes to that uncoachable student athlete, someone who's going to be that person complaining, someone who's going to be that person not listening, someone who's going to be that person who's not getting their absolute all out of practice. That is very daunting to the student athlete who is, right? Very daunting to the student athlete that's looking to see exactly what that coach is addressing to the team, seeing what they're saying. But instead, you may hear that uncoachable athlete chattering in the background. You may see some of those emotions non-verbally or verbally, like eye rolling from that non-coachable athlete. And again, regardless of good or bad, it can be contagious. So understand, even as an uncoachable athlete, that can be contagious, and that can be a contagion, rather, when it comes to your entire team, but the same for the coachable student athlete. Those that are looking to put in the work, those that are looking to, again, give that coach the respect that they deserve, those that are looking to be the best version of themselves every time warranted, that can be contagious as well. And that can absolutely rub off on other student athletes, other teammates, and that collectively is what you want your whole team working towards.
Awesome. So hopefully we have a pretty good definition of what it means to be coachable, what it means to not be coachable here at this point. Before we kind of turn the page to determining, are you someone who's coachable? We have a quick clip here where you can take it from a college coach, not from us, but from someone who's coaching college student athletes and looking at prospective high school student athletes. So it's Division III coach talking about playing time and seeing action on the field, give you a little bit more insight.
We're going to tell you 7 days a week, why you are or why you're not playing. And in my time there on campus, I think I've had one player, one DB in 8 years complain about playing time because they know why they are or why they're not playing. They know why, and we watch film every day. It's a part of practice. We watch 40 minutes of film every day before practice. And so the only thing I can promise you is you are going to get fair opportunity. You are going to get every chance. And I have a linebacker, or had a linebacker from Lyman High School in Orlando, Florida, who after week 3, his freshman year, took the spot of our senior starting captain at linebacker because he outplayed him to the point where we felt it was necessary to make that change. And that linebacker didn't complain. He knew what he was doing wrong. For whatever reason, couldn't get it fixed. And so he knew. And he couldn't, there was no argument to be had.
Awesome. So a great clip there from a Division III college football coach. Where sports, Phil, it's the great equalizer of all things. And you can look at it and say, you know, the senior doesn't necessarily always get the playing time. It's about who works the hardest, who has the best skills, who's able to curate those skills, be coachable, and put that coaching into practice. And I'm sure you can probably relate with that a ton with your football background as well.
Yeah, and it comes with looking in the mirror, right? I think the coach did a really good job outlining just, hey, you know, either you are or you aren't, right? You should know exactly what your coachability has led you to. You should know exactly what your work ethic has led you to. There shouldn't be a lot of confusion. And typically there's not a lot of confusion as far as coachability is concerned as well. When a given student athlete is, again, coachable in that regard, again, not to be repetitive, but as a coach, that is a pleasure because they can depend on that student athlete, not only to implement change, not only to pay attention, not only to get the best out of that person ever, but also, again, when it boils down to it all, that coach can rely on you as a teammate to grow. And that's what all high school, college coaches, club coaches, that's what they're looking for. They're looking to have an impact on you and get a better version out of yourself than that was there prior. And again, I thought that coach did a really good job outlining some of those things. And when we look at maybe that student athlete that is coachable, right? There's some things that we can do, and we referred to it a little bit earlier, but there's some things that we can do to recap some of the things that we may be accustomed to. But we have to check ourselves in some cases with a coachable student athlete. Some of those things, Kyle, in regards to a coachable student athlete, that might be taking a look at your strengths. It may be taking a look at your weaknesses and kind of comparing them to the next student athlete, or just seeing how they match up between what your college coach or your high school coach is viewing.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, you can have your own thoughts about it, but you know, that coach obviously has really good communication with his players and is able to kind of discuss some of those types of things. So that's something you can start doing in high school already. You don't have to wait around to do that. Go to your coach, see what they think, you know, offer them your ideas and thoughts of where you can get better or where your strengths are, see where they line up, see if the coach agrees with that. So if you're, you know, are you already coachable? Does none of what we talked about apply to you? If so, that's where you can kind of you know, look into what we just talked about. One other piece that can be helpful as well, we're going to have an IMG webinar tonight. We're going to do a little preview of the content, but it's a free webinar you can register for called Flip the Script on Your Self-Talk. It's to be hosted by IMGA Plus Mindset Coach Lexi Evans at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, Central Daylight Savings Time, I should say. Lexi was a full-ride scholarship volleyball player at Chaminade University, now a mental health coach and performance coach at IMG. The link to register for this event is going to be in the chat. You'll learn how to identify your personal strength, implement positive mindset techniques, and transform negative self-talk into positive self-talk. You do need to sign up for that. It's completely free, but you do need to sign up for it. So check that out. Check out the link in the chat as well. Should be a good event here this evening. So Phil, at the beginning, we asked, what's in it for me if I'm coachable? Right away, you might see more playing time, maybe less running as a punishment, which if you're me, I never wanted to run. So that's a win. I think that's maybe why I was coachable, because I never wanted to run. You're going to feel better. You're going to have a greater internal calm. You're going to accept criticism. You're going to be more coachable instead of feeling like every time someone critiques you, it's an attack. In the long run, all this will lead your coach being an advocate of you when a college coach comes asking to you, not to mention, like we talked about, down the road, you're going to be a better employee. You're going to be a better boss. You're going to be more conscientious. You're going to be more willing to accept where your faults are and be more willing to adapt and change and adjust to be a better worker, better employee, better husband, better wife, better parent, whatever it may be down the road. Phil, anything to add on top of that?
Yeah, just put your coach in the best position possible, right? Do not put your coach in that tough position, because oftentimes you will see the truth. Okay, Kyle, you just talked about some of the immediate things, whether it be more playing time, whether it be less punishment, in which, again, we can all use some of that in the historic days when it came to doing some of those wind sprints, if you will. But in the long term, again, just to double down on that theory, there will come a time where, again, whether it be someone in the academic realm of advisors, admissions, whether it be a college coach, someone is going to reach out to your high school coach or your club coach asking for more. In fact, there's catered times throughout the year, according to the recruiting calendars, where a college coach may only be able to communicate with your high school coach. Don't put your coach in a position where they'll have to tell the truth about you being non-coachable. Okay, make sure your peers, whether it be teammates, your high school coach, your high school counselors, they should all be able to advocate for you in a positive direction, but it starts with you.
Awesome. Great stuff. So we'll turn it down to the question and answer segment of our show today. Again, if you have questions about coachability, feel free to throw them in chat, or if you have questions about anything having to do with recruiting or how great Phil's beard looks today, or how I'm trying to catch up with his masculinity, feel free to throw them in there. First one we have for today, Nathaniel asks, can you still make highlights outside of a gym, then send them to our NCSA account? Phil, you want to take this one?
Yeah, really good question. Number one, absolutely. Right now, it is going to be preferred that, depending on the sport, and it might be basketball in this regard, but depending on the sport, we get some game footage or we get some practice footage in the gym. But again, depending on the sport, skills video, is absolutely pivotal. The main concept is making sure college coaches and others that may be looking at that film can see you in motion, can see you in action, can see you a little bit more clearly than just what they would see on paper. But if that's our starting ground, we need to certainly work our way up to actual film and competition as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great starting point with skills video, whatever it may be. Going to want to see game footage for most sports as well, outside of a couple. It's a really good question. Another question, Hunter, am I too late to get into the game? I graduated 2021. I am 20 years old and still very set on my goals. Hunter, it's a great question. I was kind of in the same boat myself. I played professional baseball for numerous years. And then when I was about 23 or maybe 25, I don't know, I was mid-20s, I still had college eligibility and was thinking about trying to go back and play. It depends, Hunter. There are a lot of factors that go into this, like eligibility for one. Right now, are you a full-time student at a school, meaning you're taking a minimum of 12 credit hours? If you are, that means your eligibility clock has already started. So you only have 5 years to play 4 seasons. So if you started school a couple years ago, that eligibility clock is running right now. If you have not gone to college at all, you haven't taken any courses, you haven't been a full-time student, your clock has not started. There are still some restrictions though, but it's going to be difficult. It's going to be an uphill battle. You're going to need video. You're going to need some sort of competition. It's hard to go to a college coach and say, I haven't played competitively in 2 or 3 years. Let me on your team. The best advice I would give for you right at this point is probably to find like a junior college, a local school, somewhere where you can go and try to walk onto the team. Once you walk onto the team, if you're able to do that, you're able to get playing time, you can start making video. You can talk with us. We help junior college, 2-year school student athletes get recruited to 4-year schools quite often. So that's another route that you can take right here. So it's possible. I'm not going to say you can't do it. There's no way, but it's going to be an uphill battle, Hunter, to say the least. I think we have one more comment before we turn to our commitments here this afternoon. Craig has this: coachable is not just a behavior trait, but also related to the abilities to learn and translate teaching concepts to reality. It's a great point, Craig. Exactly right. That's the whole point around it. It's not easy for everyone, but like we talked about today, it is something that's coachable. You can coach yourself to be more coachable. You can learn how to be more coachable. You can learn how to put more things into practice. And, one thing that I would say that I wish I had done better when I was younger is be willing to ask questions. When a coach is talking with you about something and you don't understand or it doesn't make sense or you don't know why, that doesn't mean just blindly question them. It means try to understand it, try to put it in practice. If you're not sure how to do it, ask that coach and they'll help you more with that. They'll kind of walk you through that, and that should be more helpful. Any further thoughts on Craig's comment on coachability, Phil?
Yeah, I think that's what it's all about, right? And I think to summarize it, I think it's all about having a growth mindset, right? You may not be where you need to be when it comes to implementing aspects of coachability, you know, retaining aspects of it. And again, that's okay. But as long as you believe that you can get better, as long as you have the will, the willingness to get better, and you believe it, again, strongly, have that growth mindset and it can happen. Okay. Just like other areas of our lives, if we have that growth mindset, that's the belief that we're not the finished product. Okay. We're not the finished product. So we can absolutely work on it. And that can get us better in that realm as well.
Fantastic. Skills, not just for sports, but skills for life. We're going to turn to our commitments here for the day. We're going to ring that commitment bell. We have a few really good ones. This first one coming up for Phil. I was super impressed by the info I found, but take it away, Phil.
Yeah, Kyle, I was super impressed because I thought it was you at first with that same name. But super nice action shot there coming from Kyle, headed to Quincy University. And I promise it's way more than such a phenomenal picture here. Kyle actually joined NCSA less than 2 months ago. You know, we're talking middle of or towards the end of February in that regard. Was extremely active right away from getting a nice video up. And again, we're talking in less than 2 months, getting a video up of him in the water. We're talking making sure he can communicate with college coaches, filling out his profile, making sure the online presence is there. And tangibly speaking, Kyle had over 80 views overall from college coaches. Tangibly speaking, Kyle overall, again, in this under 2 months' time, was able to connect with tons of different coaches, but Quincy directly opened up all of Kyle's emails. Okay, everything was exchanged back and forth. And again, while it's crunch time, in which we communicated to Kyle when he first joined, it's absolutely in fruition, and Kyle's hard work has paid off. So that's what we call a coachable student athlete, knowing that, hey, Kyle had to hit the ground running. Kyle had to have a little bit of humility when it came to it because he's a little bit later to the game, but it's found an awesome university in Quincy.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely our recommendation to wait till February of your senior year, but a great sign of what can be done using our NCSA network. Our second commitment today is Mackenzie Tucker. Mackenzie is going to be heading to St. Peter's University. She's a volleyball player. That's out of Jersey City, New Jersey, which is very unique. I had not really even spoken about or thought about that area of the country until just yesterday when I spoke with one of my new coordinators that I'm working with who lives in Jersey City, New Jersey. So the world's a small place and things collide all the time. But another student athlete who did a ton of her recruiting work through her NCSA profile and portal, emailed with the coaches at St. Peter's 7 times. Those coaches opened every single one of her emails. She had 242 total emails that were opened by college coaches in the time that she was using NCSA. So someone, again, great example of the power of our network and our connection with college coaches. Congrats to you, Mackenzie. Best of luck to you heading to St. Peter's University.
I love that coming from Mackenzie. And lastly, we got Chance Johnson Hood in that regard with an amazing action shot. I can only remember the days where I suffered on the track a little bit. I don't know about you, Kyle, but again, Chance is heading over to Concordia University here in Chicago. Again, huge shout out to Chance. Not so much like Kyle there in the beginning where Chance joined NCSA back in 2019, but again, the consistency is pivotal. Okay, from updating stats, updating, again, team accolades, updating everything that college coaches need to know and evaluate through Chance's profile. Then looking at some of the hard numbers, over 208 searches, over 35 follows directly from college coaches. That doesn't matter. Chance has found the amazing home at Concordia University, and we obviously want to extend a huge congratulations.
Awesome. Great commitment as well. Yeah, the thought of being on a track gives me literal anxiety, so let's not think about that anymore. Great stuff here today, Phil. Again, be coachable. It's only going to help you in sports and in life. Again, if you guys are looking for some more information and looking to learn a little bit more about how to be a better student athlete all around and be more coachable and understand yourself a little bit more, check out our IMG webinar this evening. Again, it's free, but you do have to register. So check out that link to speak and hear from Lexi Evans this evening at 6 p.m. It's going to be a great webinar. Phil, as always, it was great to see you. We'll see you guys next Tuesday again, same time, 2 p.m. Central Time. Have a great week, everyone.
See you all.